John sat on the porch of his weathered home, his gaze lingering on the horizon where the sun's final embers painted the sky in shades of orange and pink. The day's end brought little solace to John, whose heart had been ensconced in loneliness since Emily's passing 2 years prior. Max, his faithful Great Dane, looking at John as if he understood, a soft whimper escaping him. He also felt the profound void left by Emily's absence.
Life's different without her, isn't it, boy?
John murmured, his hand finding solace in the soft fur of Max's head. The dog responded with a look, his eyes brimming with an almost human wisdom, silently urging John to embrace the world beyond their shared solitude. The following morning marked the beginning of change for John. He decided it was time to venture out, to reintegrate himself into the fabric of life that had continued in his absence. He announced, determination lacing his voice.
Max, we're going to the park today. And it's not just for a walk. We're on a mission to reconnect, to find a spark of the life we've been missing.
Max seemed to understand the gravity of the moment, his tail wagging in support of John's newfound resolve. The park, with its sprawling greenery and the gentle bustle of everyday life, felt like a world away from the quiet desolation of John's porch. As they wandered through the familiar paths, John's heart fluttered with a mix of hopefulness and nerves. It had been years since he considered the possibility of connecting with someone new, of opening his heart to the potential of new beginnings. Guided by an unspoken intuition, Max led John towards the lake, a serene spot that had always offered John a sense of peace in his lonelier days. There, they encountered Sarah, sitting alone, her attention captured by the pages of a book. Max, ever the social catalyst, approached her without hesitation, his friendly demeanor bridging the gap between two strangers. The introduction was seamless, as if Max had always known that Sarah was someone they needed to meet.
I'm sorry, he usually doesn't.
John began, only to be interrupted by Sarah's warm smile.
No need to apologize. I love dogs. What's his name?
His name is Max.
I'm Sarah.
She replied, her hand extending in greeting, a gesture of openness that John hadn't encountered in what felt like a lifetime. As they conversed, John found himself drawn into the ease of the interaction. Sarah's love for books, her passion for travel, and her gentle humor sparked something in John. A flicker of connection he hadn't realized he was yearning for. Max, sitting proudly between them, seemed to approve of this new development. His presence was welcome as John navigated the forgotten waters of potential friendship, and perhaps something more. When Sarah suggested dinner sometime, John felt a warmth spread through him, a glimmer of hope igniting in his chest. The prospect of sharing a meal, of continuing their conversation beyond the confines of the park, offered a tantalizing glimpse into a future he had begun to think was no longer possible for him. The dinner was magical, set in a cozy Italian cafe that felt like a world removed from the grief and solitude that had defined John's life for so long. They shared stories, laughed freely, and discovered a mutual understanding that seemed to transcend the short time they'd known each other. Walking Sarah to her car afterward, the air felt electrified with the promise of new beginnings, of healing and moving forward.
Thank you for tonight.
Sarah said, her eyes meeting his in a gaze that seemed to see through to the core of him.
Thank you for saying yes.
John replied, the weight of the moment settling around them. Max, who had been a silent observer throughout the evening, let out a soft woof, as if to offer his blessing to whatever might come next. Sarah's laughter filled the air, a sound that John wished he could capture and keep forever.
I think Max is telling you to make your move.
Sarah spoke softly. Encouraged by Max's apparent approval, John leaned in and kissed Sarah. It was a simple kiss, a moment of connection that spoke of mutual loneliness, understanding, and the possible hope of new beginnings. As weeks turned into months, John found himself opening up to the possibility of love in a way he hadn't since Emily passed. Sarah, with her kindness, her laughter, and her mutual love for Max, brought light into the shadows of his grief. And Max, ever the faithful companion, was there through it all, a reminder that love, in its many forms, could be found again. One evening, as they watched the sun set from John's porch, Sarah turned to him and said,
You know, Max brought us together. He's like a little Cupid, isn't he?
John looked at Max, then back at Sarah, and realized she was right.
He's not just a dog. He's a friend, a companion, and now, a matchmaker.
Their kiss sealed the promise of a new chapter in their lives, a chapter filled with the hope of love and companionship. Max let out a joyful bark, as if celebrating this new beginning alongside them. John looked at Sarah, then at Max, and felt a sense of completeness he hadn't known in years.
I love you,
He said, his voice thick with the depth of his emotions.
I love you too.
Sarah replied, her eyes shining with the promise of all the tomorrows they would share. As the sun sunk into the night, painting the sky in breathtaking shades of orange and pink, John realized that while some chapters of our lives must come to an end, new ones are always waiting to begin. With Sarah by his side and Max at his feet, he felt ready to embrace whatever came next, grateful for the second chance at love and happiness that life had offered him.
John sits in the dark, listening to the rain. Max by his side, a large Great Dane. Life has changed, too much sorrow. Love waits, may be found tomorrow.